Hello, everybody. This is Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I have a lot of great things to talk about today, and I'm going to start out with talking about the stats. And we haven't had our weekly stats for a couple of weeks because they took the time off from over the holidays. So this is for December 29th to January 4th. So holiday week, so not a lot of activity definitely happening during that time frame. There were 278 houses sold, which is, really low for the end of the year. And it was 266 the week before. So you got to remember that these are both holiday weeks. So that's, something that is kind of a unicorn or whatever out there that's a little bit different than normal. The median price was $400,000, which is quite a bit lower than what we've seen in quite some time. And the inventory of homes went down by 143, so it's at 7337. So with the number of properties that sold in that last week, so I'm very anxious to see what next week's going to look like, because basically the bottom line is that it should be a lot higher, and hopefully it is. But basically, so with that low number, we're looking at 6 months of inventory, which, we're probably more like 4 based on everything on the way that it rocks itself out and all of that kind of good stuff. But this is saying 6. Under 250, there were 30 homes that sold, and that's at 3.74 months of inventory. Between 250 and 300, there were 22, and that's 4.55 months of inventory. 300 to 400, it's 86 of those 278 sold, which is one of the biggest categories, and that's 4.31 months of inventory. Then when we go to 400 to 500, there were 53 homes sold, and that goes to 6.63 months of inventory. Between 500 and a million, there were 71 homes sold, but that's 500,000, spread there, and 8.31 months of inventory. And then over a million, there were 16 of them that sold, and that leaves us with 10.56 months of inventory. So the lower we are in amount, the lower the inventory is. And I would say that was accurate when you're looking at that. The list to ask price ratio is at 96.65 overall. Under 250 was at 90.36. Over a million was at 95.63. And then we were at about 98% all the way across until we got to 500 to a million. And that was at 96.79. So it's always the lower end and the higher end that definitely has some room there to negotiate. And usually I've been seeing lately that 250 to 300 has also been in that range, but it's not this week. So looking at the condos, townhomes, and villas, basically there were 92 that sold that week and 95 the week before. So the two holiday weeks. And the inventory there decreased by 117. The median price, though, was pretty high at $295. So that's interesting when we're looking at that. So how that all breaks down is that there were 92 that total, 32 were under 250, 15 between 250 and 300, 25 between 300 and 400, 10 between 400 and 500, 6 between 500 and a million, and 4 over a million. So that over a million, that really made a big difference in their inventory because there's only 17 on the market. So that leaves us less than a month's inventory if we sold that many of them every week. But it's 9.26 overall in the condos. Under 250 is at 10.22 months. Between 250 and 300, 8.68. 8.72 between 300 and 400, 10.36 between 400 and 500, and 500 to a million is 11.5. And then the list to ask price ratio, that's a little bit lower than the single family homes because overall it's at 96.86, 94.07 under 250. And then when you're, 300 up to a million, you're at 98, and then 97.46 over a million. So basically, these were kind of low weeks. So our stats, in my opinion, are off a little bit when it comes to looking at what's going on in the market with those particular properties. So basically, I think that I'm very anxious to see what the stats come out for next week. I mean, I did have sales in that week period, and so mine are in there and all of that. But, it's like real estate is so local. And when it comes to the holidays, it kind of gets a little squirrely, I guess, is what I'm saying. And so it'll be very interesting to see where we're at next week. Now, there were some people that definitely wanted to get the properties closed by the end of the year. And the reason that they would want to do that is for a couple of reasons. I had one guy, the guy I was working with, he wanted to do that because he wanted to get, some tax write-offs for 2024. So he definitely wanted to get the property that he bought closed by then. If you were going for homestead, then that would be another reason that you would have wanted to get it closed in 2024. I mean, you could obviously close in 2025, but if it doesn't have homestead on it already, you're not going to be able to get it until 2026. So that's really probably the next thing that I should be talking about is homestead right here. And I know that some people are confused about it, not knowing exactly, what the scoop is. And I always say it's best to apply for it right when you get closed. So I wouldn't wait until this time of year to do it because you don't have to and you might forget. But, you only have to do it once, but it makes sense that you would do it right when you purchase your property because that's going to be your best bet. So when it comes down to it, what you need to do for homestead is you can contact your county office. They're going to want to see that your closing statement or whatever that you closed. Most of the time they want to see that your driver's license is changed to your new address as well. And they can take care of your voting and everything right at the same time as well. So that all makes sense, kind of a one-stop shop. But to apply for your homestead exemption, you have to do it before March 1st. So you can do it anytime up till March 1st. You can do it in, March 2nd for next year, but you have to do it before March 1st for this year. And you have to have closed on your property before the end of the last year. So by the end of 2024, you would have had to close in order and apply for it before March 1st of 2025. So I always recommend that you do that right after you close if it's going to be your primary residence, because that does a couple of things for you. One thing is that it gives you a little bit of a discount on your taxes and it locks them in at that price. And so basically what happens is that the rates will go up a little, but if you don't have homestead, they're going to go up with the market. And so it can be quite substantial in everything in what's going on. And I'm going to actually talk about property taxes in the next segment as well, because I want to make sure that everybody's clear in regards to how that works. Because one of my pet peeves is that people look at listings and they look at what the taxes are, and that is not at all what they end up being. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about first-time buyers in regards to what's going on and the affordability and everything that's out there. And there's a new study that came out that said that there are some Florida cities that shine for the first-time buyers in 2025. So this actually is a location, basically, is where this is coming from. And the Villas, which is in Lee County, Altamont Springs, which is right here in Seminole County, and Lauderdale Lakes in Broward County, are among the best U.S. markets for affordability and family-friendly living, according to Realtor.com. So that's great news. Now, when looking at Altamont Springs, which is what I'm going to concentrate here on this one, is that the 25 to 34-year-old homeowner share in the number of households in Altamont Springs is 19.4%. Basically the median price as of over the last 12 months was $229,400, and basically what that came down to is there's one more figure that I wanted to talk about. Travel time to work from Altamont Springs is generally 28 minutes is what it's taking people to get to work from where they live in Altamont Springs. But the good news about that and what qualifies for this particular study is that it's talking about affordable homes. It's talking about a strong local economy, fun for everyone. And then people want to know that you're going to get a good return on investment when you're buying that kind of property. And what it comes down to is that it's showing that Altamont Springs, that they are expected to go up 12.1% this year. Now, the overall amount that they're saying that they think that the nation is going to be is 3.7. But for Altamont Springs, they're thinking that it's going to be 12.1%. So that's great for first-time home buyers. I think that that's a price point where many of them can afford. And basically, when we're looking at the stats, which I did in the last segment, and we're looking at it, there's not a whole lot of homes that are underneath that 250,000, and there is usually more room in there. But basically, the bottom line is that it does exist out there, and so I think that it's something that, if it were me and I was just starting out, I mean, I bought my first house when I was 24, and, it was a very scary situation for me. I was thinking, oh my gosh, am I making a mistake? Is this a good move for me? It ended up being the best move for me ever, and have always owned a property, since then and everything. And, but it's like when you look at it and you go, okay, how am I going to navigate through this, and how am I going to make this happen, and all of that. And so just looking at it is what I would suggest that people do, and how you get started. And you talk to the professionals, like myself, and I'm more than happy to sit down and talk to you to go over really all of the ins and outs about it, what it's going to take on your part, what the negative things are when you get done with it, what the positive things are when you get done with it. We've got those financial calculators that I believe I talked about last week, that really we can come into and help you in whatever way that you need to understand, what's going to be your best scenario. And if you're buying a house for that price, it's probably going to be cheaper than anything that you can get to rent or anything like that. And so it just is looking at it, planning for the future, and all of those kinds of things. When you are getting a loan, and some stuff that I'm going to be talking about a little bit further on, but basically the bottom line is that when you are getting a loan, what you have to do is that you have to go to that next step and getting a loan, and you have to know that your credit score is where it should be. If there's things that you need to do to get it better, knowing what those things are obviously make a big difference in your success and everything as well. And the higher your credit score, the lower the interest rate that you can get, or the better the deal many times. And so it really is important when you're looking at it and deciding and figuring out, what you want to do. But In today's day and age, there are things that you can look at, that you can pull your credit score and you can look at it, and and there are things that you can do that you can immediately increase it. And so just knowing what there are. And I was working with a couple a few years ago, and they wanted to buy a house, and somebody looked at their credit, and they had a late payment on their car loan. I think it was probably like 6 months before that. And what had happened is that their debit card got changed, or something got changed, and they didn't realize that the payment was late. So as a result of that, though, they did have a late payment on their car loan. So what the lender explained to them is that in order to get a loan, you can't have any lates in the last year. So they learned that, and they went ahead and they made sure that they were not late on that car. And the second that it went to over a year, they were able to get a much better deal on their interest rate. They were able to get a loan with no problem, and everything went smooth sailing from then. So it does come down to being educated, is what I'm trying to tell you. And so basically, I think it's important for people to sit down and plan ahead if you want to do it. I mean, maybe you can do it right now, but maybe you need to wait a few months for something to happen. Maybe you need to be in your job a little bit longer, or working for a couple of years longer. But there are different opportunities and everything that are out there for different fields and different people. There are things that you can look at. If you do have a part-time job and it's not considered full-time, you do have to be in that 2 years, and they're going to average over the last 2 years what money you're making in order to figure out, what works and that kind of stuff. So if you started your job 18 months ago and they're averaging it over 2 years, you're going to be not having that income for 6 months, and it's going to be averaged in there. So I don't know if I'm making sense. I can show you on paper probably easier than I can by talking about it, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows that there are opportunities out there for you. There are great houses out there, and all of that kind of good stuff. So that when it comes down to it as well, there are it's a new year, and so there are new condo rules that are out there. The condo sale contracts now need to include conspicuous statements about the milestone inspection, the turnover report, and structural integrity reserve study. So this is all still more backlash from what happened in Surfside several years ago, to make sure that the condos are in really good shape. So if the association is required to complete the milestone turnover and the structural integrity reserve study after July 1st, 2023, and the association has not completed them, if they were not required to complete those statements, then that needs to be noted. And if they're required to complete the statements and they have completed them, then they need to let you know that, and they need to be available. And so that's just something that as a consumer, that's going to help you out there. And so I think that's a great thing for the new year. With all the fires and everything that have been going on this week in LA, insurance has been a big thing on the news that people are talking about. Are people insured? How is that all going to work? Did the state prepare for it and everything like that? And they are talking somewhat, they compare a little bit about hurricanes. So being here in Florida, we do have wildfires occasionally. We haven't seen them with hurricanes or anything like that, thankfully. But basically, the rain would be there to probably help with that, a lot of it. But basically, when you're looking at it and you're looking at the insurance picture in Florida, and Citizens is an insurance company that exists when you can't get regular insurance. You have to show that you were denied from some other insurance, and then you can get Citizens. And they're sitting with 935,000 policies today. At the end of last year, they did go ahead and they did sell some of those policies. Basically, that happened last year. And so they're getting them off of their books and getting them with other people. And so the state has really done a lot through the legislature and that to make sure that insurance works in Florida, because we do have hurricanes occasionally and that kind of thing. And so what they've done is that there's a couple things that exist out there that you may or may not know about. One of them is the reinsurance, that basically, you have your policy through whatever company, and what happens is that the insurance company, that they have it set up that their risk is that they can cover 2 storms, say, for the season. And so then they have, they buy an additional policy from another insurance company that kind of backs them up, that if there's a 3rd storm, a 4th storm, or whatever that comes through the state, that basically it will kick in and back up that insurance company so they're not going to go bust. So basically all of those kinds of things are built in to our insurance world here in Florida. So it should give you a little bit of comfort to know that that's all taken care of. So you don't have to worry about that. That the companies are solvent and they've done what they needed to do. There's been a lot of lawsuits and fraud and that kind of stuff, and a lot of those things have been addressed and everything as well. So when it comes to insurance and where we're at in the state right now, I feel like we're in really good shape. And so we're constantly getting better. We're in much better condition than we were several years ago. And so it's nothing to be concerned about. Insurance rates are higher than we'd like, but they're coming down or staying the same. And there were some articles on that last year. So it comes to shopping and figuring out, what you can do and all that kind of good stuff. But in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So, like I said, we're in a new year and really looking at, if you want to buy a home in 2025, basically there's a lot of things out there that are saying what you should do in order to get that done. And basically, there was somebody who asked a question that said, we plan to purchase our first home in the new year. Do you have any specific advice? And it's exciting and anxious at the same time. Getting caught up in the process and losing the forest for the trees is easy. And so you want to make a list of the top 10 things that you're looking for in your new home. Some people want a big kitchen and a large yard, while others want a high-rise with a view, or some people want that open concept. And we actually do that with everybody that we meet with. Is we sit you down and we say, hey, okay, what are the things that are most important to you when you're purchasing your new home, is the first thing that we ask. And then we say, what are the things that are the must-haves? What are the things that would be nice? And really looking at those. And what's really interesting is when you're working with a couple that they have different needs and they didn't even know they had different needs, which is really kind of interesting because, they've decided they want a house, but they haven't really talked about all of the things that go into it. And they know they want it and they've got it in their mind, but they forgot to talk about that stuff. So we sit down with you and we help you go through that process to figuring it out. And then you also want to look at what you don't want as well. And I think that when you concentrate on, what you like and what you don't like, and those are the main things that you're looking for, I think that really is important to decide as well. And when you're looking for a house, you want to focus on the characteristics of the location that you want rather than requiring a specific town or community. And I think this is especially important if it's your first time, because you're not necessarily going to get that zip code code that you want or whatever. I know that there's several people that I've talked to that it's like if you just go into the next county, you might be down 100,000 in price. And there's one area of town that if you do that, you cross the county line and the prices go down 100,000. And the way that you can see that very evidently is a new home construction. That in one county, it's say it's 500,000, and then you go to the county across the street and it's 400,000. It's exact same house, exact same builder, exact same everything, except for the price is 100,000 less because of the county. Now, to me, it's amazing that it's that significant, but it really can be. And so if you focus on the characteristics of the location you want, you could maybe get a much bigger house for the buck. And will it always be $100,000 difference? I don't know. I doubt it. But basically, at this point in time, that's kind of got to be it. Don't give up on finding a house that suits you. The process of trying to finding and get a new home can be exhausting, which often leads people to give up and settle on a subpar home just to avoid another month or 2 or 3 in the process. So when you're shopping around, sometimes it takes several months or more to find that right house for you. I don't believe it has to take that amount of time. I think it depends on really who you're working with and how we can help you get through those processes. And I honestly believe that it's really important that you do get 90% of what you're looking for on your first time out there. It's like we have a buyback guarantee that says if you're not satisfied with your home purchase, we'll buy it back or sell it for free, in that 24-month period. So I haven't ever had to do that with anybody because they, not saying that I wouldn't, because I totally would, but I haven't had to do it because we take our time to make sure that we do find that proper house. And that's really what it comes down to. But you as a consumer, there are some things that you can do to get ready to buy a home in 2025, whether it's this month or several months from now. And basically, it's improving your credit. And I talked about that a little bit in the last segment, to maybe pay down your debts and monitor your credit score. It can impact your mortgage rate and your loan options for sure. So that's something that you want to do. You want to plan for your down payment. You can explore down payment assistance programs and start saving consistently. Small steps can make a big difference in regards to where you're at as that. Getting pre-approved. Definitely high on the list, I would say, is really important because when you are pre-approved, you're going to know that you've already gone through the process, that you're going to see that you've got exactly what you need in order to have that happen. And then prioritize your wish list, like we talked about. What are the must-haves and the like-to-haves and all that kind of good stuff. So you can absolutely make it happen, and we're here to assist you and guide you through every step of the way. I love to work with people at the very beginning in just getting an idea in regards to what's going to work for you. And then we go from there and put together a plan in how it's going to work and touch base as often as we need to. But really, when it gets down to it and the time is right, it should only take concentrated effort. I think that, the average person looks at 10 houses and makes a decision. And so basically, when people come in from out of town, sometimes we're set up that we're going to look at 20 houses because they're coming to look at a house and they're going to find it. And if they don't find it when they're there in those couple of days, then they're not going to buy. And so I treat the in-town guys kind of like the out-of-town guys, that we have time that we need to get this done, ripping that Band-Aid off, as quick as possible. And the reason you might look at so many houses in a day is to get a really good idea of what you like and don't like. And when we do that, then we can hone in on the properties that really make sense. And, the most interesting thing to me that I think always surprises people is what they see online and what they see in person are always two different things. And I think that that's absolutely true. What happens, and basically sometimes you're not surprised, but many times you are. And if you have a whole video of a house, then that might make a difference and everything as well. I'm working with an out-of-town buyer right now, and she's looking to move down here in the next few months. And there was a house that I sent her that really matched all the boxes. She loved everything about it, to the point where she wanted me to go ahead and do a preview of it before she got here. So I did go ahead and did a video of it, and did that this week. And when I looked at it, and it was a pretty decent sized house. I mean, it was a 5-bedroom, 5-bath with a pool on a lake, so a really nice house. But it took me 30 minutes to do this video as I was walking through, because I wanted to be thorough, so I was showing the ceilings in every room. I mean, we were looking at all the closets, because she wasn't there in order to do all the things herself. And so, the cabinets went all the way to the ceiling. So we were showing that, the crown molding and all of the built-ins and everything, that if you were coming in, taking it all in. And so with me recording that, I was surprised when I got done that basically it was actually, it ended up that it was, that it did take me 30 minutes to actually show that property on video. But, she still has to come and see it. She's not going to buy it sight unseen, but that's a lot better than the pictures that you see online that may or may not do it. And my point with all of that is that basically what we do is that we go ahead and we work with you to make sure that you've got everything that you need, and we go to that next step to take you to that next level. So anyway, basically, I am going to finish up this segment right here. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you could call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So basically, wanted to get into today the hidden costs of home ownership. First-time buyers are sometimes surprised by ownership costs beyond their mortgage, including taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance, and homeowners fees. And one of the things that I think I talked about in the first segment that I was going to talk about today is actually taxes, because it is one of my pet peeves that people think that they're going to, they look online and they see how much the taxes are of a house currently, and they think that that's what their taxes are going to be. And unfortunately, that is not always the case. Basically, what happens is that with that is that the taxes reset every time somebody else buys the property. So the tax assessor looks at what that purchase price is, and then they change the price of the taxes accordingly, because they know that the assessed value needs to change because of that. So that basically is one of the big things that happens with taxes. And I think that a lot of people are not aware of that. And so they're looking at somebody who bought the property 20 years ago. They had it homesteaded. And so it's locked in for them, has been locked in for them. And they don't realize that the taxes are going to change for them. And it's really a big sticker shock to a lot of people and all of that kind of thing. And so I really make sure that people know what it is. Now, there is this portability. If you've owned your house for a while, that you can take your taxes with you to the next property, that homestead type of deal. But that's a very complicated calculation, and the best way to figure that out is to actually call where you're going to be moving, the county you're moving to, and say, hey, I owned this house here, and so how much of that can I port over to this property over here? And when you do that, that is the best way to do it. I don't even try to do the portability, but it is available. But basically, as a first-time buyer, you have to look at it of what it's going to be. And a couple of years ago, even, it wasn't even that long ago, it used to be that the lenders, if you were buying a new construction house, they would calculate your if you could afford the home based on the taxes of the land that existed there before the house did. So say you're buying a house for 300,000 and the land is worth 50, those taxes were based on a $50,000 property versus 300,000, and so all of a sudden these people would get these new bills that would come out like a year after they bought their house, and they would have like complete sticker shock, and they would be like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" So they don't do that anymore, thankfully, but basically, it's really important that when you're looking at your budget, that you look at what those taxes and everything are. So there are, it is regulated by the government on a conventional loan that you can only have X amount of your income goes towards housing, and then X amount as your debts overall. So they do consider, your mortgage, the taxes, your insurance that you're paying on that home, because that's required, as well. And then the HOA fees are also included in that. Now, one thing that doesn't get included is utilities. So if you've got solar on your house, or you're buying a house with solar, even though and I've talked to several people about this in the last few weeks, is that even though the house is coming with those solar panels, you are not able to, you've got to pay that loan on the solar panels potentially. But if you had, and that goes into your ratios, but if you didn't have a solar panel loan and you're still paying utilities, that does not get included in your ratios. So it's not exactly fair 100%, but it is what it is, and that's how it shakes down. So if you're buying a house, and if you're putting solar panels on your house, and you're going to have a loan or expect to get a big fee from that when you go to sell your home, I think it's something that you definitely have to consider. And so, there are some new home communities today that every home in that area come with solar panels. So that's kind of built into the price. But then there's other areas that you might be the only home in that neighborhood with solar panels. And so how is that looked at in regards to how much your, how much your payment or whatever is? So basically it comes down to that there are a lot of, situations and everything out there that you need to look at the whole big picture when you're looking at purchasing a home. Another study that came out this week that was saying that people are staying in their rentals longer than ever. And so the good news about that is if you're an investor, that I think that would be a great situation for you, knowing that the average renter is staying in there longer than ever. Basically, 1 in 6, 17% had lived in the same property between 5 to 9 years in 2023, compared to 14.4% in 2013. So older renters are more likely to stay in the same home longer. And basically, when you're looking at it, people do stay where they're at, because if you're going to move, there's always little costs that come into play, whether it's the movers, renting a truck, buying pizza for your friends, if you've got friends that are helping you move, buying that window covering, because you get in there and you're like, oh, I really would like to have shades or curtains, covering things up. So basically, there's always extra fees that come into play, but that's if you're moving anywhere that you're going to have those extra fees. But basically, you want to look at, it says experts suggest setting aside 1% of your home's value to cover large repairs and all of that kind of stuff that you want to look at. But I think that the bottom line is that what you want to do is you want to go into any situation with your eyes wide open. And when you do that, and you look at all of the value and all of the things, and looking at it, you've gone through the calculators, and you know that maybe for the first 4 or 5 months it might be more of a struggle than if you didn't do that. But then after that, if you've got 5 years that are easier than it would have been if you hadn't done it, you know, it ends up being a great situation for everybody involved and everything in there. And so basically, you know, we always tell people to look at, if you looked at where you are today versus where you want to be a year from now, 5 years from now, where would that be, and how are you going to get there? So we just help you navigate through it, and that's all great. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we will see you next week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.